A schoolgirl is forced to explore a haunted abandoned school where many students went missing from. In her journey through this dark, terrifying school, she encounters a malevolent entity whom she learns the tragic backstory of. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. You can follow me on Twitter, where you can communicate with me and send me game suggestions. This video will have spoilers ahead. With that in mind, let's begin. Mako and Haruna, two bullies, force the female protagonist to explore an abandoned school for getting close to a boy they seemingly have a crush on. Inside the school are nailed to the walls posters of missing school students, which seem to have been the reason for the school shutting down. In the restroom, the protagonist plays a tape of a conversation between two people, Nakajima and Atsushi. Nakajima explains that Atsushi is a handsome transfer student who became the topic of conversations and subsequently the target of Kobayashi and his group. Kobayashi is the principal's son who gets away with bullying many students, and hence, Atsushi is his perfect next target as he's not very talkative and took the center of attention unwillingly, which Kobayashi yearns so much. Nakajima instructs Atsushi to use a mini tape recorder and gather evidence of what Kobayashi does to him, which would leave the principal with no choice but to act on this matter. It becomes clear that Atsushi was a student within this abandoned school, having had a terrible fate of being bullied by a gang of jealous students due to his good looks. The protagonist goes to the female restroom and collects a red paper with another seemingly missing. Traveling through the claustrophobic vent ducts, she finds an indigo-colored piece of paper cut in identical proportions to the red one. Traversing through the school, the protagonist can find 5 other pieces of paper with similar dimensions but colored differently, scattered throughout the school. Meanwhile, she encounters a large entity wearing a velvet red cloak while having a menacing face mask, chasing after her with murderous intents. The protagonist then stumbles upon a magical well who sympathizes with her as she's taken the red paper, one of the most brutal ways this entity kills his victims. The well informs the protagonist that she can get rid of this demonic spirit if she offers all of the 7 papers in a shrine. Soon later, the protagonist meets a girl called Nagisa, who's well hidden behind a metallic door, asking for food as she's extremely hungry. After offering her some food, the mysterious Nagisa opens the door for the protagonist, showing her a way out. She quickly disappears with restroom slippers on the edge of the roof, indicating that in fact Nagisa passed away after whether falling from the roof or jumping off, with her ghost only staying behind, trapped within the school. Nagisa presumably took one of the papers colored green, ending up with her becoming hunted by the evil entity. It's not too clear if she locked the door to the roof, cowering from the killer and ended her life due to despair and giving up, or whether the killer dropped her from the roof. As the protagonist tries to find the remaining pieces of paper and offer them to the shrine, all while evading the killer, she comes across more recordings unveiling the tragic story of Atsushi. The second tape reveals that Nakajima is Atsushi's counselor, trying to help him overcome his bullies. However, what the quiet Atsushi does not mention is that he probably won't record them, as he has no self-worth and confidence, as he mentions the treatment he gets from the gang of Kobayashi is nothing compared to what he's used to. On the third tape, Atsushi clarifies whose treatment he's used to. His father, a renowned politician, beats him almost daily, crushing his confidence and self-worth. Atsushi is so mentally broken that he feels embarrassed recording his own voice. He explains how two-faced his father is, while all he does is lying, when his campaign slogan is to never lie. The fourth tape reveals how Atsushi's mother abandoned them, leading to the father feeling great resentment, referred to as Mr. M, who torments a broken Atsushi because he sees resemblance of his mother in him. The fifth tape displays how his father doesn't care about him, and how Atsushi is bullied at school. Leading to the sixth tape, Atsushi mentions that Nakajima wasn't as helpful in regards to the domestic abuse he suffers from. but that it's something he expected as he tried to seek outside help before, but no one would believe him, compared to a powerful politician of a father he has. Tape 8 then displays how badly Atsushi was hit in the face one day, that he started bleeding everywhere and feeling lightheaded. The first time ever Mr. M hit him in the face after being extremely drunk. Tape 9 then reveals that Atsushi died in a tragic and gruesome manner, with his body being slashed. Nakajima speaking with a colleague called Tanaka shows complete lack of sympathy and disregard to the tragic story and end of Atsushi, whom she was put in charge of to care for and help. She lightly speaks about how Atsushi had self-inflicted cuts and that his death might have even been self-inflicted, to which Tanaka explains that his father was also found dead in a similar manner, which is still not clarified to be whether murder or self-inflicted. This leads to the final tape, recording number 10, where an unsympathetic Nakajima is in the restroom when she gets asked by a strange voice whether she wants blue or red paper. Nakajima, believing it might be a prank, asks for the blue paper, when in horror she witnesses the vengeful spirit of Atsushi proceeding to brutally strangle her to death until her skin resembles the color blue, while mentioning that the beauty is on the inside. The protagonist, understanding the backstory of this paranormal entity, she proceeds to complete an anatomical skeleton which comes to life and offers her a bundle of rope which she could use to escape. After offering all the collected papers to the shrine, the protagonist receives a sword called KUSANAGI no TSURUGI, which is a legendary and mythical sword found and passed around by gods. Using this sword, the protagonist is able to slay the vengeful spirit, letting her get out of the school in peace. After some time, the protagonist lays in her bed, unsure of whether what had happened was real or just a bad dream. She then finds it difficult to sleep or think straight, with the only option left for her to revisit the abandoned school where multiple school kids went missing, to confirm whether what happened was true or not. When she visits the school again, she doesn't find any evidence of this cloaked killer ever being present. Months pass, with the series of killings of an unknown slasher having come to an abrupt stop. People spread rumors that the unknown serial killer is Manto, an urban legend entity who offers people in school or public toilets red and blue paper. If they ask for the red one, they get brutally stabbed and slashed until they're drenched in their own spilled blood. If they ask for the blue, they severely get strangled until their skin resembles the color blue. The protagonist, learning about this terrifying urban legend, becomes certain the killer she defeated was no other than the rumored Akamanto. With possession of the rope the protagonist acquired from the completed anatomical skeleton and the help of Nagisa opening the door to the roof, the protagonist manages to drop the rope and climb down, running out of the school. Without thinking twice, she goes to the nearest police station, reporting her experience. The police, not believing a word she says, reluctantly and inadequately investigate the old abandoned school, expectedly not finding any evidence to the presence of the killer. Later on, sustaining PTSD-like symptoms, the protagonist becomes overwhelmed with fear and self-doubt to if what she saw was real or just simply delusion, questioning her own sanity. Later on, a news channel reports on the brutal murder of a 16-year-old female high schooler who died in a similar fashion of many other victims, whom are thought to be the result of an unidentified killer who's been long dubbed as the Slasher, explaining that escaping Akamanto led to the continuations of the brutal murders. The protagonist is seemingly a schoolgirl around the age of 16 who becomes the victim of a couple of mean and jealous schoolgirls as she gets close with a popular boy at the school whom the bullies fancied. They force the protagonist to explore an abandoned school which has been rumored to be haunted, as several of its students went missing under strange circumstances. The protagonist learns about a boy who used to go to the school called Atsushi, who becomes the subject of a gang of bullies due to his good looks making them jealous. Atsushi was a handsome boy who, despite his good looks, didn't believe in himself, being overwhelmed by self-doubt and lack of self-worth. It's explained the culprit was his father, who was a crooked, powerful politician who would drink frequently and badly beat him. Atsushi tries to seek external help, especially with a counselor called Nakajima, who was appointed to help him, which only ends up with no one believing him. Atsushi, being crushed mentally, feeling hopeless with no one helping him, ends up suffering a tragic death from his drunken father. Atsushi's soul, resentful to the people who did him wrong and perceiving world as a cruel hierarchical prison, rises to become the fearsome Akamanto, the terrifying evil spirit, brutally attacking his victims in their most vulnerable situation while in the restroom. Majority of people dismiss Atsushi's death as self-inflicted, despite the authorities not confirming it, displaying how no one bothered to be involved. The enraged and vengeful soul of Atsushi starts by killing the person responsible for physically and mentally tormenting him, his father, and then expands with Nakajima, a two-faced counselor vowed to protect the vulnerable and listen to them, while in fact she was relieved that her responsibility was over with Atsushi, showing complete lack of sympathy for his death. In a sad line, the freshly transformed soul of Atsushi informs Nakajima that the beauty is on the inside, repeating his father's line containing a different meaning, that all Atsushi ever wanted was for people to look inside him and listen to what he has to say, rather than cutting his voice short and preventing him from speaking. He wanted people to pay attention to the broken person he is inside, than looking at the superficial handsome face of his and dismiss his cries for help. If you found today's video entertaining, you can watch many more by clicking on the cards on the screen. You can also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell not to miss out on the latest videos. It's been your host Star, and as always, have a fantastic day.